Good afternoon, our citizens, our mighty citizens, and the citizens of Uganda who constantly follow this show, the Citizens Chat Show. You're welcome once again to this episode, and we are taking on again another interesting discussion that will be tabled with you. We are the Citizens Chat Show, which runs on our online media, the Civic Space TV. You follow us on YouTube, it will be live today. You follow us on Facebook, you follow us on Twitter, the conversations are on there. You're welcome today, and we're going to take on the discussion. We're discussing today, taking stock of the 10th Parliament and the issues that the Parliament should address, the 11th Parliament should address. So joined today, we have an interesting panel of guests here. I will start from my right, far right. We have Godber Tumushabe. Godber is an Associate Director of the Great Lakes Institute of Strategic Studies. Then from Godber we have a very common face in the politics of Uganda, Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, the MP of Butambala County. Yes. Then from Muwanga Kivumbi we have David Pulkol, a very renowned person in our system, our political system. He's the Executive Director of Africa Leadership Institute, and a person who is so much known with scorecards, Parliament scorecards. Yeah. Then we have next to Pulkol is Bireete, the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance, and also a very common face on the media lately. And finally is Honorable Abbas Agaba, the MP, Honorable Member of Parliament of Kitagwenda County, right? Yes. Yeah. Welcome to the show, and from this point I would want us to have our guests try to at least greet you, and we set the ball rolling. I think I'll need to start from here, Honorable. Yeah, we'll try to greet our visitors. Then,
Well, thank you, Demian, and my colleagues with whom we are on the panel. I'm happy to appear on the Citizens TV chat. I think this is my first time, so please do understand my wavering around with the description, but make it, to say the least, I'm happy to be on. Well, as a Ugandan, as a Pan-Africanist, I think I start on the onset to register solidarity with the people of Tanzania. It's come out finally that Dr. Magufuli is dead. We share your grief, we share your loss. We are together because he's been a strong leader in the region, one of those emulating others in whose, in Magufuli, many people thought we were seeing Nyerere and others. So the people of Tanzania, the people of Uganda, the Afro-Arab region, we share the loss of a great son of Africa. It's a very interesting topic, taking stock of the current parliament, the 10th, to anticipate the 11th parliament and what we think they should give priority to. Yes, it's worth a discussion, especially now that we are with Mr. Pulkol. Pulkol has been involved severally in ranking the performance of Parliament. They rank Parliament, they've been ranking Parliament, one on attendance and also two on speaking on the floor of the House. Those are very important actually. One is to attend and the other is to speak, because Parliament represents, or MPs represent their people in the Parliament. Members of Parliament legislate for their people. They do appropriation of the budget, and also do they do representation, legislation, appropriation, and they do oversight. So if you're a member of Parliament who does not attend the Parliament, it's a problem, because then your people will miss. If the national cake is being cut and you're not there to argue for your people, it's very difficult. If you're a member of Parliament who does not speak in Parliament, maybe because of the language or because of other factors, then your people will not be represented. But the import of this is, according to the scores by Pulkol's team and the results of the election, what is the problem? Because many of those who score highly in his analysis, when it goes to the people, it's the opposite. And people have an affinity for those, many of those who are elected, because you keep changing. When you perform well in Parliament, how does that relate to your people's interests, or the people you present? How does that fall into their expectations? So I think it's fascinating, therefore, to have this discussion, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Maybe we'll have Pulkol to David to also moderate.
I think you'll excuse me to speak clearly on this. David Pulkol, yes, once an honorable, always an honorable, once upon a time, as early as 1987, so I was in that parliament, and therefore only left in 96, and therefore retained that title, like a retired colonel, someone. Or a retired bishop. Sorry. But the point I'm making here is that taking stock of Parliament, and Parliament is such a great institution, one of the three arms of government. And in the CA Constituent Assembly, we took away a lot of powers from the executive and other places and placed it on People's Representatives Parliament. It's the only institution which can make what will have the effect of law. Okay, nobody else can make that and acquire the effect of law throughout Uganda. It's the only institution that can appropriate and approve a budget. Anything that Parliament has not approved in terms of outlay, budget resources, and so forth, it's illegal. So somebody will have to refund that money because the people's representatives were not involved. It's the only institution which can censor a minister or even recommend interdiction of a civil servant. Or it's the only institution that can even impeach a president. So no other institution in the land. It's a very powerful institution. It's the only institution where you can elevate a matter which is happening in your constituency to a level of matter of national concern and raise it in the floor of Parliament as a matter of national concern. And therefore, every week, people's representatives are given a chance to ask questions of the executive. They are nyamparas, the supervisors of the executive, on behalf of citizens of Uganda. They oversee that the laws they make, the budgets they pass, the policies they approve are actually implemented to the letter. So it's not a simple institution. It's a very important institution in the land. But of course, we need also to know that as the people representatives, they are the spokespersons of the people. Every part of Uganda is a spokesperson, just like Nanga is a spokesperson for the police. So who is a spokesperson of your constituency? When your rights are trampled upon or threatened, who speaks for you? Or when your interests are shortchanged, okay, and are undermined or sat upon, who is supposed to speak for you? It's your member of parliament. That's why you elected him. But citizens are the employers. They're the ones who elect them there. They're just employees. They're just job seekers. Just like the president is an employee of the system of Uganda. These are job seekers. They come every 5 years seeking employment. If you don't bring them, they have no employment in parliament. So citizens must know that they hold the power because they're employers. So the scorecard comes to give the citizens just a bit of evidence, traceable, verifiable evidence, or which they can use to appraise this man or woman whose contract you must renew. Based on what? So we just go in and get attendance register. Okay, does he attend or she attend or not? And therefore citizens ask, Honorable, where are you? You are not in the constituency, you are not also in parliament. So the employer must be able to get some verifiable evidence. Did you participate? This is a whole official record of parliament for the year called the Hansard, a book recorded by parliament, transcribed by parliament, published by parliament. You just go and say, how much did your MP contribute to this volume? of discussion that took place. Did he contribute anything at all? If this is the official record, we are limited by what we can use because we are looking for something verifiable, something you can defend, something you can show. But for a citizen, you just want a picture to know, did my MP contribute this much or that much, or how much did he contribute or she contribute? And then the other time is we have now added, it's also important for you to know what was your output. How many amendments did you move on the floor of Parliament, on the law? How many motions did you second or move? These are tangibles, outputs. How many questions did you ask? On what? If you didn't even ask a whole year, you didn't even ask a question. You couldn't even ask about the state of our roads, of our schools, of our health centers. For a whole year. Citizens must be able to ask that. You couldn't even ask a question. Do you fear ministers? What's your problem? So again, what matters of national concern did you raise? And MPs are given power to raise even a petition. Write a petition, let citizens sign, and you petition Parliament, and you lay it on the table.
Thank you, Honorable. So we are going to dig deeper into the scorecard as we get along. It's part of the discussion. So then I need to go to Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi.
Is it good evening? Is it what good? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm somewhere from the bush, so don't worry. Good afternoon, members. There are two issues here. My friend touched on the question of the scorecard. I went to Ghana or Nigeria, one of those centers for strategic studies. You know, I don't know why people like to call them strategic. It is Kofi Annan Institute. So they had done a research across Africa about how the people's expectations and how they score them on work. Apparently, the results are very amazing. If you do your parliamentary work, traditional work of parliament, you speak, you represent, therefore you are elaborated, in the expectation of people, that contributes to only 25%. So that's why you are saying those who score highly, how come they don't come back? The people across the African continent, these things, you appear on TV, you speak fine English, and you do it. In the eyes of the ordinary people, you are only working for 25%. 54% was for to what extent do you respond to their needs. And therefore the changing role and expectation of an MP. Even globally, the role of what an MP now does is fairly changing. You will not be judged more by what you do, but how do you respond? Not that you bribe them, but how do you respond to the local concerns of your constituency? That is an overriding contribution, whether they will elect you or not. Therefore, even the way the work of an MP should be structured now must change. And how is financed must change. He knows, and as even in his scorecards, I find he was scoring. I looked at my page. He was showing me how I have it. A water bowser, a tractor, and was giving it a score.
The projects you are running.
The project you are running. He was saying, do you have a constituency office? Because those are tangible things, and those contribute a lot. But also, clear advocacy. If you live in an area where the forests are being depleted, how have you responded? If you live to an environment where your people are being evicted from land, where are you? Are you on their side? Of course, the case study would be Semeo and Abidi Anam. How come did Semeo lose? But I don't want to go into it. Then the other issues, the small percentages on integrity and those other issues. And how do you carry yourself? Have you been compromised along the way? They score you. So we are taken through that as an orientation, how it should be an MP. But also as he's defining it, I think The role of Parliament and its contribution to national development is determined by the environment for which Parliament finds itself in. Quite increasingly, there is a mismatch between what people now think the Parliament should do and what it's supposed to do. You have powers to change the Constitution, but what the people may expect is that you must resist people who want to change the Constitution. Then for you exercise your power to amend the Constitution. The people's expectation is that you should not even participate in that. You must put a resistance to people who are trying to change the Constitution. Therefore, parliaments elsewhere, he used to use that word, I copied it from him, is a firewall. Yeah. The land of last resort. When courts don't function, when the executive files. That's why in the CA, they gave Parliament so much that even if you want money, sit somewhere and determine how much you want yourself to be paid.
So that
but
nobody
please,
bribes you.
Nobody bribes you, but please do a good job, defend us. So the feeling as you analyze Parliament is that as he answered and responded positively to the question of the day, if the challenge of the country is corruption, don't tell them that you pass the budget. No. How much did the Parliament participate in curtailing or mitigating corruption? Now, if the public thinks that you are also corrupt, whether true or not, but if the public, as an MP, walks in on a function, do people see a fight against corruption or a representative? This is what, if I get out of my car and as I walk in, without people saying anything, what do I represent? Whether I've walked to in Karamoja or in my constituency, as I march over the car, do the people see a priest who will intercede between us and God, or they see a representative of Satan? Now, the question is, especially in a multi-party dispensation, and this is where we have a problem, a big challenge. How do the MPs stay loyal to their party and be representative of the people? And I leave it at that, because quite often why MPs are failing is that more often when they reach Kampala, they sort change wananchi. They cease to be their representatives. They see we are paying, for us we are loyal to the president. Now when you go back to the actual people who sent you, say, but you are loyal to the other man, let him vote you. And because they think the president is so powerful in Africa, he has money, he has everything. So MPs quite often choose to be on the side of presidents, not only Museveni. Even if today it is Godber, Sujui Pulkol here, my neighbor, or myself, most likely a big chunk of our African leaders will be loyal to me. And that mismatch is what is causing a problem, and the role of Parliament. So I want to allay the fears of my brother. Don't be disappointed. When the people see you in a big car, they say, that one has our money. And
which is true. Which is true.
And he eats it. And he's a representative of corruption. Therefore, Parliament has got to rediscover itself and find a new role and how it can really be for what it's supposed to be, a firewall.
Thank you. Firewall.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right point to start from,
yes.
Because the functions that Abbas has really articulated, in my view, they don't change actually. They are legitimate functions, legitimate responsibilities, and depending on how the MP does them, that MP is able to respond to the issues that Muwanga Kivumbi has ably articulated. Because you are a firewall. You are a people's representative as Parliament. the citizens vote a president, and he has all these powers under our constitution. But then they also vote members of parliament. They have all these powers. The architecture of our government under our constitution and most Commonwealth constitutions is that you have these institutions of state and they check each other. In fact, they are supposed to be equal. They are supposed to have their equal branches of government. None of them is supposed to be subservient to the other. The executive, headed by the president, the legislature, headed by the speaker, and the judiciary, headed by the chief justice. So you have these three principals who head these institutions. If all these understood their job and understood the source of their power, we wouldn't actually have all the problems that we are having, including the questions around parliament that, what are you doing with the citizens? Have you been able to buy them this and give them that? It wouldn't happen because if all of them understood that the power is derived from the people, because that constitution basically contains about a number of provisions which basically says every authority of government or anybody is derived from the people. In fact, that provision is even repeated under the provisions dealing with the judiciary. Judicial power is derived from the people. Now, that if these institutions understood that we are there to serve the people, then they would be equal branches of government, and therefore they would not allow the breeding of a monster called a president. Because in this country, the parliament is suffering on its own account because it has abdicated its responsibilities and surrendered its powers to some guy called the president. So what MK is saying is that if you, MK, myself, Abbas, or anybody was president, and you have legislators like we have in this country who surrender their power to that president would behave exactly the same as a monster. That's really what we are dealing with. That, in my view, or even worse. In my view, I think my own analysis, I follow David's work on the scorecard. I do my own research on parliament as a researcher. And I think there is general consensus across the board that the quality of Uganda's parliament has degenerated from the 6th parliament, 1996, 2000. It has degenerated. And I think that we are close to hitting rock bottom. I really sympathize with the legislators. Sometimes, MK, I know MK normally chooses me and say, you fear coming to the house. And I keep on saying, but MK, do you want me to come to that parliament and sit with the other guy and pretend that we are legislating? I don't want to do it, and so I become elitist. And I think it's also okay. But right now, what citizens need to understand is that they are on their own. Because the parliament is supposed to be a firewall against manipulation to amend the constitution. The parliament has acquiesced in the crime of regularly amending the constitution. The parliament is supposed to be the firewall against unscrupulous spending of taxpayers' money. The parliament every other day passes all these classified expenditures. Because you see, while we are a country that lives in a turbulent region, we are not at war. There is no declaration of war in this country against anybody. Why do you hide every spending that you want to do? Parliament is supposed to be open up all this spending and determine which things should be classified. But when you find that a significant proportion of the budget is classified, then you know that Parliament has abdicated its responsibility. Parliament is supposed to be a firewall when it comes to matters of justice, that our courts should function and function properly. Because, as we normally say, the courts are the temples of justice. When I disagree with MK or with Demian, we disagree. Instead of exchanging fists, we all say if we go there, the judicial system will sort us out and we'll all be comfortable. But we have reached the point that our judicial system has so degenerated and disintegrated that even the current regime itself fears taking people to court. Yeah? So they hide them now in safe houses. Now they have even moved, they have run away from the regular courts. They are taking people to the court martial. That shows you how everybody, citizens, as well as the government itself, have actually lost confidence in the judicial system. That is how far, I think that's the crisis. Right now, let me conclude by saying that Parliament and these members of Parliament have thrown us in a real crisis as a country, and really I am hoping that we'll find the innovations to be able to, lift up and stand up again.
Thank you, Godber. That's an excessive one. Let's hear from Sarah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I will not differ much from my fellow panelists. And I think I want to bring in the opposite of firewall. Because what we have is really a rubber stamp, or even something beyond that. If you go to Article 79 of the Constitution, the functions of Parliament are very clear, though they are captured in a broad nature because the Constitution cannot go into details. But in summary, the duty of Parliament should be to legislate for peace, order, development, protect and promote the Constitution, and advance constitutional governance. So if we moved from that Article 79 and together with Article 1 and in its power, that all power emanates from the people, and the people exercise this power or delegate this power through electing their representatives in obviously free and fair elections. And that's also maybe another component we need to interrogate. So in the absence of free and fair elections, do you have true representatives of the people? And if we don't have as a country, and this is on record in the Supreme Court petitions at 3 occasions, that this country does not have free and fair elections. So do we then have true representatives of the people, or we have masqueraders? And away from that, if you are unable to transact properly true representation of the people, do we then have a social contract to talk home about? Because democracy is governed, the people and the leaders' representatives in a democracy is governed by the social contract. If the people are not enabled to properly execute this social contract to get transparent and accountable leadership, so how do we define that relationship? I know that democracy is a process, but I think at one point, and I'm glad that Honorable Pulkol was in CA, I think that we have, from the time of the enactment of the 1995 Constitution, we have consistently and steadily taken a reverse direction as a country in terms of democratization, in terms of expectations of leaders, and in the quality of citizenships and how the leaders transact their business in total disregard of people's views, wishes, values, and aspirations. So in summary, that's how I would define the relationship of the current democratic dispensation in this country, where the doctrine of separation of powers is merely expressed on paper. We have an executive that occupies 90% of the space that is supposed to be shared by the 3 organs of government. We have a NRM caucus that is more powerful than the parliament and the legislative body instead of parliament. And we have a judiciary which really has, I think, is almost disappearing from our democratic dispensation. So in that arrangement, and in summary, the assessment of the 8th Parliament, you have the executive having its will, its way.
Probably 10.
Even the 10th Parliament, its will, its way, even including by force, going by what we experienced as a nation during the Tojikwata Ko, or the lifting of age limit, where the executive decided to unleash the military to torture people's legislators when they were discharging their duties in the chambers, where a stranger is not supposed to step, and you beat MPs for trying to amend the constitution or debate the amendment, and you have the executive characterized by the permanent incumbency that has completely mutilated our constitution and has completely malnourished constitutionalism in this country. So in that political context, we cannot talk of a parliament being pro-people or even having a known agenda for that matter, because the executive sits and crafts the agenda, which would be normal if there was space for parliament to do its work in a fair and free environment. But that does not exist. We know that beyond military attacks, like we saw during the removal of age limit, there is intimidation of people who seem to hold divergent views. Even as MPs in this country, there is harassment beyond physical beating, torture, including economic harassment by the regime. And then this environment has created a bunch of cowards, especially those that belong to the ruling party, and forgive my language, because they do not think of the people. When they are legislating, they just look at power, military, and money, and then they just look, most of them, they fear to contradict the executive because they fear to lose in the next elections, as if they should be legislators for life, or being an MP is a permanent occupation. We all went to school and we have our different occupations. And being an MP should be a temporary service that you offer in the interest of the public, you know, in the common good and in the interest of the public. But an MP, after swearing in, is more preoccupied with whether they will be re-elected or not, as if there is no life before or outside Parliament. So this is the condition that has disabled the dispensation of parliamentary democracy in this country.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. That's you've thrown in interesting issues there. But let's start from there, and possibly I'll start with Honorable Abbas. Maybe because first of all you're seated close to me, but also because you're an MP representing, of course, the government in power. Let's start. The issue that has come out clearly is on representation. That is, yeah. Do you think the Parliament is well represented? But also to chip in, do you think which group do you think really should not be in Parliament according to you?
I think we need to be fair and honest to ourselves and to the people. May I take back the blame to the people, because those we are blaming for misconducting, misdirecting, misdoing this, they are also represented by the people. I need to comfort Sarah. When I have a contract of a job, my preoccupation is to do the job well. In other settings, I mean, I could be an ED of UCC, or so. My preoccupation is to do the job well, such that when the contract ends, they can renew it. So this member of Parliament, as soon as he steps in, he wants to work so hard for his people, speak for them, represent them, and anything that's available that they can get, he wants to work for it, such that the people are happy and they can renew the contract they have with him. I think it's the Honorable Pulkol who called it a contract. It's true. It's a contract between the people and their MP. So it's right to work hard and do your best, such that they can renew the contract. Really, it's natural. But the paradox is.
So do we need term limits?
Term limits are very okay and very welcome. The only difference is that those who thought there should be term limits, they have put limits on the offices with a lot of power. I mean, how much power do the MPs have? Even as we discuss the way they work, the president has a lot of power. I'm one of those who have been stiff about term limits on the office of the president. Even when we went to consulting about removal of age limits, I was surprised about the decision of the court in Imbali. The people made a compromise, say, hey, remove the age limits, because we did consult the people. We were in different constituencies. I went to Kitagwenda and asked the people. There is a proposal to remove age limitations. Those of 18 can stand, they vote, they should also be voted. Do you agree with it? They told me, yes, we should remove age limitations, but put back term limits, such that of whatever age, when a president comes, they can stay for 2 terms and then they go. But when it went to Mbali said, the judge just said, no, this amendment was not part of the original proposal, the original bill.
Matter. Which is true. So which was true.
The courts were right, that was not part of the original bill. But the reason we went to consult was to get the people's views. If they agree to remove the age limits, what are the other safeguards they are putting in? But that's on one side. On the other hand, there is no government that's going to come and does not work in caucuses. It's going to be very difficult. Even when Godber, my brother, assuming God tomorrow wakes up and looks at you properly and sees you, now that the original Magufuli has gone, let's have the duplicate Magufuli and gives you the power. It is caucuses. It is the parliament, the government works in caucuses. Yes, parliament works in committees, but the caucuses simplify the work. The difference is, when you go in the caucus, are you able to debate openly? Are you able to debate genuinely and honestly about an issue, or you are suffocated and decisions are made for you and you have to bring them on the floor? The difference is, of course, like currently the NRM has many people. The NRM caucus has many people, but that doesn't mean that all NRM caucus members, they agree blindly. A number of them oppose. Some may not even be known in the papers for opposing, but they do. I attended the caucus before I became a member of parliament. That time was a national chairman of the youth league of the NRM. So being a member of SEC sometimes would be exposed to the caucus meetings. And I followed an argument about Temangalo. The Honorable Felix Okoto Gong. He was so critical of the role of the Honorable Mama Mbabas in Temangalo. And the First Lady deferred with the President on Mama Mbabas. I was fascinated because, yes, I was not a member of parliament, but I benefited in following the internal discussions of the party. There can be caucuses, there can be good ideas generated from caucuses. The question is, to what extent have the people chosen those who are capable of doing for them the job? The parliament is a firewall. Really, it's our last guard, our last safeguard. Nothing should go beyond. But this person whom we have voted, does he have the capacity? Whether it's opposition or NRM, I don't want to limit it to NRM alone, even opposition. I mean, we have a new breed of leaders who have come in opposition, and even in NRM I've seen them. I don't know to what extent.
Then they are not under fire, but they are not under fire, or they are fire.
Themselves. So, to what extent they will make the wall a firewall, and not as porous as it's been, we don't know. But the citizen, the citizen who is voting, what is in your mind as you cast your vote? I want a person who is going to protect the Constitution. I want a person who is going to do this. I wish this is what they have in their minds. Surprisingly, Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi can tell you, we are always with the people. We go for elections. I think Sarah, you have contested before for an election.
Yes, I
It's very difficult. These people vote for different factors that you don't understand. I have a colleague, member of parliament from Southwest side. I may not have to mention his name. But I have not checked whether he came back. For him, he told us, attending parliament is not part of his agenda. No, he doesn't. He says he has about 30 trading centers, which are big. And what he does, in every trading center, he has a home and a wife. So in the evening, when he goes there, he drinks, he sleeps there. Tomorrow the people come around, they serve them porridge, he discusses with them, he gives them transport, so they go back. Well, that is his, okay. But polygamy is African, so I wouldn't be surprised.
No, of course, yeah.
So that has kept him close to the people. He always wins. Now you, Abbas, Muwanga Kivumbi and others, you are here debating national issues of national interest. When Pulkol does his assessment, Muwanga will get 70, 80, Abbas will get 70, 80, the other colleague will get a 0. For attendance, for talking, but to the people, he still comes back. So there's a paradox. When such a person is called about a constitutional amendment, what will he say? Actually, as long as he's with the people, he can drink with them, he can share with them. There's another constituency I know. Among the contestants, somebody said, no. In the West, he says, wherever he will go, for the benefit of David and others, he puts Akabari. Akabari is a bribe. He takes a document with an envelope, such that they work on it quickly. People said, yes, this is the one we want, and they voted him. So we are waiting to see how the Kabari works.
He said that in campaign?
Yes, openly, and he's been voted. In another constituency I know, people lined up to get 1,000 shillings to vote. On the line they are given, you go in, you go, you give, you go.
But that's a kind of NRM, your party.
No problem. Whether it's NRM or not, we shouldn't defend evil.
Okay.
We can't defend evil because it's done by the government in power. It should stop. I mean, this is our country. If it goes wrong. So, where candidates compete on who gives more money. Now, you the citizen, you have given the one who gave you money. He has come here and he doesn't have the capacity to even resist what you want him to resist. What do you do? So I think we, the political actors, need to go back on the drawing board. Yes, we can target the leaders, try to sanitize them, try to help them fit into the positions they have taken, but our concern, our large concern must be on the citizen, bring them through, empower them. They must discern between, a citizen must understand that voting a fellow Catholic or voting a fellow Muslim does not necessarily add a lot of value on this leader, because if they lobby for the water from the government and we have water, before you drink the water, he doesn't ask your religion or your tribe. The Muchiga will take the water, the Kitagwenda will take the water, the Catholic will take the water, because it's a service of the government extended near. To me, my own understanding, as I conclude, what should the citizen expect from the members of parliament? As you go to vote, or as you, in your mind of minds, you need a person who will lobby these services to come close to the people. Basically that. We need the schools to go to government, that we don't suffer with school fees, because some areas have government schools, others don't have. We need water, we need electricity, we need roads. If I have a person who can speak for me on this in the government and we can have them, me as a citizen, I'll be home and dry. But Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi told you that in Ghana, they discovered that this performance services to the people only contributes 25%. There's a 45% he talked about. Of this other 54%, of this other colleague of mine I'm telling you in the southwest of Uganda, who is always with the people. And it supersedes everything. So if you vote for something wrong, you blame him but little, because he satisfies the other one that people look at.
Oh, good, but you wanted to make a little interjection before I go to Muwanga Kivumbi.
Interjection on the point that Abbas has raised. I think they are legitimate points. But I think part of our problem as a country is that we try to normalize the abnormal. Yeah? So that gentleman, that colleague of yours, who is telling you how he gets support. The colleague I'm told is in Kisoro. Yeah? He can get the support. But it's also possible, because you see, and I agree with them that citizens will see what have you done, how have you responded to our issues. But you see, our issues do not necessarily have to be like, I have bribed you. Our issues as citizens are that we need clean water. Our issues are that we need a functioning healthcare system. Our issues are that we need a functioning public education system. So it's possible that we as leaders can actually dwell on those issues. That when I'm going and I'm there in Parliament debating and arguing, I'm looking at how much money has gone into education. Yeah? To make sure that my people in my constituency, they have schools that are functioning. Rather than saying, rather than every other day, we are increasing the budget of the president, or we are increasing the budget of Parliament, because those are also concerns. So there is, I think, while I agree, because we are in a society that is dominated by many people who are not exposed enough, who are not civic competent and civic conscious, and therefore they are going to be diverted by so many things. So we as leaders have a responsibility, because I am one of those people who do not believe in this saying that society gets the leaders it deserves. It is leaders who change society. Society does not change leaders. An individual MP like Abbas, you can go to that parliament and shake it up actually. As long as you are focused on, like, I need this to work for my people. You talked about the movement caucus. I think that the concept of caucuses is fine, is perfectly fine. But you see, when the caucus becomes a place for conspiracy against the country, that's where you have a problem. That the NRM people sit and conspire. The FDC people sit and conspire. You are all conspiring against us. Yes, it's conspiracy. It's serious. I mean, the NRM, for me, I look at it as a conspiratorial group. They go there, conspire against everybody. Whether it is the budget, you conspire on which money you should pass. Because even in the caucus, I mean, as politicians in a multi-party system, there are certain basic fundamentals that make a nation. An independent judiciary is non-negotiable for anybody. I don't think that an independent judiciary works for an NRM person, an FDC person, even those of us who are non-aligned. We need an independent judiciary. I'll even bring an example closer home, especially for those who are in partisan politics. You saw the president the other day coming up. Bobby Wine was in court saying they stole my elections. Then President Museveni also comes and says NUP and Bobby Wine stole my votes. These are two leaders. They have all agreed that their elections were stolen. In a functioning democracy, the chairman of the Electoral Commission should have even resigned. Because you have an Electoral Commission that supervises an election, or the two leading contenders are saying our elections were stolen, it means that the Electoral Commission is the one which stole them. Now, you imagine, is there a problem? Yes. Is it a problem if the it's by admission. If the NRM caucus sat and said, we need an independent Electoral Commission, is that something that should be contested? Because an independent Electoral Commission works for NRM, for FDC, for NUP, and for us, the citizens. But you'll find that for almost 20 years now, we are talking about reforming the Electoral Commission, making it independent, and the NRM is the one which says, no, the thing is okay. And then we are treated to the fact that every after election, I know President Museveni now is about to write those letters. Every after election and a by-election, President Museveni writes how he was cheated. But then the NRM nor the legislature can stand up and say, Mr. President, you have executive responsibility to close these loopholes. So stop complaining.
From that point, let me ask Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi. You've been in Parliament. Is this getting the third term or fourth now? So
I think Muwanga Kivumbi may be the 8th.
That's the second. That is a price of being vocal.
Yeah. People think you've been around for too long.
Oh, you also have.
I've been to Parliament for only one full term, by the way. The other one was just half term. So I've been there for 7 years only. So I'm not so lucky like those others. But a lot of people think like you think, that I've been there forever.
Interesting. The question there is, do parliamentarians really know their roles while Parliament? Picking from what Chatroom said.
But I think, Honorable, my friend here,
Honorable.
and is falling to the trap of Agaba. You see, we are here on the veranda. This house is made of cement and bricks and wood. Now, if you take me to a discussion where the house should be built by wood cement. What should really a house be built of? Therefore, a government, even a dictatorial one, can bring water. By the way, dictatorial regimes, dictatorship deliver sometimes on service and are efficient.
Yeah.
Take away democratic rights.
But it is quicker to change society through a dictatorial leader than it is through a democratic one. South Korea, for some time, was by and large under dictatorship.
Those are transformative leaders. Dictatorial, but transformative.
Exactly. Yeah. So the debate that they normally engage us in of water, of electricity,
yes, it's a peripheral debate.
It's a peripheral debate. And it dominates, and I know it is a well-schooled thinking of NRM. You tell people about water, about what, but
no, even where the water is not necessary.
This house can only go wrong from the architectural point.
Yeah, that's right.
If at the time, if you want a beautiful house, you don't wait to see whether the bricks and say, you go back at the time when you engage the architect and say, this is the house I want.
Yeah.
And it should be like this. Now, for them to engage you, the house is, it should have cement, should have this. Really? That important as it is.
Those are obvious facts.
Those are obvious facts. Yeah. People must have, actually in the Bill of Rights of Uganda, we said these are now rights. Right to education, right to health. It's no longer even a noble, and they even use the what?
They are non-derogable.
And they are not, so there ceases to be question of debate.
Yeah.
Even at global cities, we say million goals. People must be humanized, must have word. Now, you want me to say, how many were humanized? We are saying all human beings on earth now should be humanized. Should be humanized. So don't engage me.
Just one minute.
Don't engage me.
What about where it's a right, but they have not enjoyed it? 10, 20 years.
So should it become a favor?
That's a failure.
No,
That's a failure.
So the leader should remind and correct the failure.
So the debate I want us to engage in is how is our architectural structure of Uganda's politics?
Yeah.
Are we fundamentally wrong? Because these people in the CA, they were making a constitution.
Yeah.
Were they removing the role of delivering of do they go of water or passing a budget or whatever that? Why did they go for the
architecture?
For the kind of architecture we have?
Yeah.
And that's a critical debate. One, they wanted to tame a monster called the president.
Yeah.
For every inch, our evil emanated from the office called president. In pure democracies, all these mitigations of age limit, okay, of term limits should not even be there. Because once people are going to elect in a free and fair election,
you are covered.
You are covered.
Yeah.
But the question here in Africa is that you are dealing with the monsters. Once I'm sworn in as a president from Korolo, okay, today, elected, and I'm sworn in.
You're done.
I go in as a Democrat, I come out in May as a dictator by the powers that are bestowed upon me. Whether it is a Pulkol, the moment you touch that one, you are commander-in-chief, fountain of honor, wherever you are next to God. That's the architecture, the way you have arranged your government. Therefore, what did this disease did they want to cure in the CA? One, they wanted the military out of politics. Today, the military is everywhere in our way of life.
Everything, not
everything.
Not everywhere. Everything.
It's now everything.
Yeah.
Actually, the other day, that's why I never participated in that theoretical debate or in the one I knew. They never amend the constitution that way. Ugandan constitutions in Africa are not amended when the president don't like them. So you can't sit there in that parliament and amend Museveni's constitution in the fashion he wanted to amend it. And it will never see the light of day, that amendment. So it was just a theoretical wasting time. So the question I'm addressing, they wanted to tame the presidency. They wanted to get the military out of politics. We wanted to get the gun. Yeah. Let me be very specific. They wanted to get imposition. Imposition. Because as we are speaking now, Uganda has never had a leader who has not imposed himself on Uganda. Yeah. You only reach there and legitimize. As they say, these Catholics here and Christians, you after marrying, after some years, you go to the church and say,
you formalize
you are formalizing.
But you were married already.
But you are married already. So they go there to sanitize their thing through an election, and the election is not even the need for an electoral commission. No one needs it. In so many democracies, it's the Ministry of Interior or local government that organizes an election. Even the very creation that you have an electoral commission means you are a batch of thieves.
Yeah.
And you don't trust yourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Therefore, can we go deeper and say, can Parliament give us that architectural framework that we need? And if we can't get it from Parliament, where do we get it from? So the crisis you have in Africa, even in Kenya, even elsewhere, I've been studying carefully, even in Kenya. As long as you are not a candidate of the apparatus, of what they now call, sanitizers and call a deeper state, you cannot assume power in Africa. Whether you are going to throw an election, some of the deeper state must be comfortable with the Pulkol. Therefore, they can veto you if they don't need you. So can we say for once, whether these beautiful words of article you like to see, Article 3, the power, sovereign rights of people, you don't have that architecture design that makes a peasant powerful. Like from Karamoja, or from where, Kitagwenda, that the people of Kitagwenda, they can remove an MP, but can they remove a president?
But they cannot remove
But they can remove an MP. They can remove an MP in an election.
Yes.
Because the president does not see him as a critical element of his staying power. It's for purposes of legitimacy.
But can we also agree that if the president wanted Abbas to be MP, those peasants can fail?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. In some circumstances, he knows how some people have been sworn in this country. Here in Nansana here, near Kampala here, somebody became third. He has been a member of Parliament.
No, that's legal. So that he went to court.
Whether he went, it depends to which judge.
That's different.
That's why for me, my critical thinking as we analyze the institution of Parliament, you cannot isolate out Parliament from the necessity, you used to call them, from the necessity for political, constitutional, economic, and social reforms you need. So the whole of our thing, you are the comrade, you talk about comprehensiveness.
Comprehensive brokenness.
Comprehensive brokenness. That is the Dr. Olalo. So the whole thing is comprehensively broken. So you will not pick out one, if you have COVID, you will not pick out the entire side, there is no COVID here. This one is okay. The whole of this thing has COVID. And you need to really sanitize the entire
what is Parliament ought to be, and what is not.
What I want to tell you, don't look even at Parliament. Don't look at the judiciary. Don't even look at the civil service. Because you see, are we the ones who prepare the budget that is going to... The budget is prepared by some of the smartest economists. Yeah. By the way, Godber graduates them from universities with uppers and master degrees. Who are these shock people who pass so well in school? They reach the Ministry of Finance and they prepare fake documents. Are they morally right?
But
so even when I go to NGO civil society, you know, I've had issues with you also. The compressive brokenness. Every year I dismissed the SS bag from my works. I've been overseeing the budget. They only say salary of Parliament. They will never have the moral authority to question classified expenditure. Yeah. These are battles we've been soldiering alone. Classified expenditure. They will never say, but why does the president demand supplementary? No, they will say, but an MP is going to drive a car of 200 million. And they frame a narrative in that way. And mislead the country. For example, the crisis we have in Uganda that should concern people is that you are accumulating a debt, a national debt. Yeah. Even Museveni doesn't know how to pay. I've asked the smartest economists that say, tell me, how are you going to settle the so-called domestic debt? Which every year you roll over through debt refinancing. It is 14 trillion. 14 trillion. I ask every year, how are you going to, and do you know the cost? We are paying interest of 4 trillion. Out of 20 trillion, you are paying 4 just to go to the so-called servicing. Just paying, not even servicing, I don't know, paying interest to Godber, who bought a treasury bond, which government cannot dispense of, and keeps rolling it over. Therefore, my question, as you are nearing economic collapse, yesterday I asked a Minister of Finance, not in the open, said, okay, you want 481 billion. Can you tell us the source? Can you tell us the source of funding? He said, Bwana Kivumbi, we are going to borrow. So if you have a country that has a current budget of 28 trillion, yet your revenue correction is projected to be 22. So you go to a shop, load your trail, knowing openly that you don't have the money to pay at the counter. You have something, a cake with you. You enter supermarket.
Let's ask,
for me, these are big issues.
First of all, you told us
something small.
Before.
Yes, David can pick it up. He's a politician as well. The Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi is good and elaborate at criticizing the current, the real politics now as is. Yes, we may have issues with the architectural design. For him, he says, if it is COVID, it is COVID. But there's what we call severance. We may have COVID, but also with other added. What do we do? What do we do with the mismatch?
With the brokenness.
Yes, with the mismatch. Because if we don't address that, then
if a house collapses, do you seek to stay in, or you build?
You don't stay in the house, but you don't break it totally if it has not broken. This is where you patch and raise it again. How do we raise it again? Because we shall not wait for.
we heard what you say.
We may not wait for the chance when we build it, a new one. How do we deal with the one we have?
I think before we answer that question, you told us to take stock of not only the parliament, but the 10th parliament, which is going to end by end of May. Okay, as is according to the constitution, it's the May anyway. So then the new president is sworn in. Then you have a new parliament electing their own speaker and deputy speaker, and the current dog fight that is taking place. The fat cats are goring at each other, for the position of speaker or deputy speaker. But I can see that. I don't want to go that far. But the point I'm making here is that let's characterize this 10th parliament for now. I'm just taking from the 3rd year of parliament. So definitely it's a male-dominated institution, 65.1% males, 34.9% females. But when you look at the leadership positions, speaker, deputy speaker, and all those chairpersons, deputy chairpersons, and so forth, chief whip, and so forth, all those positions, so you find women are 33%. Yes, it's above the constitution of 30%. But what do citizens want to see in the next parliament? Certainly it would be good if more women would also ascend to, if you could increase this about, set a good example. Don't remain at 30%. So it would be good to see the 11th parliament break a tradition here. Okay, that's one area. It could be token, but nonetheless, it sends a message to your citizens. The second thing on representation.
That again the numbers in parliament? Or?
No, where are they elected from? The leadership positions.
Okay.
Those who hold leadership positions, either speaker or deputy speaker, or I've told you chairpersons of committees, whips, and so forth. So the second on attendance, we found that there's low attendance of plenary, very low. If you see, for example, northern Uganda, 20% of the northern MPs attending plenary, 20% in a year. In fact, central Uganda, you don't know where the Uganda MPs go to, 16% only attend plenary. So what's happening with our central Uganda MPs? I'm telling you, where are they?
I can
Listen,
give you an
21% from Eastern Uganda, attendance or plenary. Plenary is where decisions are made collectively, where MPs must be together and whatever came from committees or what are concluded here. Now, if you have 21% from Eastern Uganda and you have 18% from Western Uganda, the mighty Western Uganda, 18% attendance or plenary. So when you go to committees, you find Northern Uganda 42%. There's more attendance in committees than in plenary. Okay, 42% from Northern Uganda, Central Uganda 43% attend committees. And then Eastern Uganda 49%, Western Uganda 40%. So overall, more MPs are participating more in committees than in plenary. So the question is why? And yet it's plenary where decisions are taken.
Does it make sense?
Now again, you find that males attend committees more and participate in committees more, and women dominate attendance and participation in plenary. Although there are few, they come in the plenary. Why? I mean, this is really the 10th parliament for you. And then you go to legislative, 51.4% participated, the laws they made. Who participated, who made a debate, who made an amendment, who moved, who said something in making those laws? 51%. So what do the rest do in the legislative function? Do we need all this big house? When it comes to making laws that have effect throughout the whole Uganda, okay? So only 51%. That's when you look at 18.5% of the laws, you see they have the rules of procedure that a bill and matter should not be in the committee more than 45 days to pass it. But only 18.5% of all the passed actually met that rule. And now most of them, actually all of them, are to do with revenue, custom, adjusting this, adjusting that, where money is involved, the economy is involved. The rest stay longer, like for example the wage bill, like this bill on domestic relations, okay?
Sexual offences.
Yeah, you find that it stays longer in the committee, like 1,153 days and still counting. 1,000. A year has got 365 days. This bill of domestic relations bill is taken 1,153, even more, and still counting. The minimum wage bill.
You need to understand why.
So this is the issue. Things get stuck in those committees. You find data protection and privacy bill, 900 days.
The thing is broken.
You see? So when you see OTT bill taking very short time, okay, and you have your 5%, and again they reduce to 1%, it's quicker. But when it comes to these other matters that affect citizens, so there was no evidence of MPs equally prioritizing bills that deal with these other matters. So why? So what would we want to see in the next parliament? Is it to turn the wheel in the same direction it has been turning all this time, or the 11th parliament will break tradition here? When you go to oversight, 36% of national issues raised by Western Uganda MPs, and that's the highest. Matters that citizens see as matter of national concern. After the speaker has always opened the house, you rise up on matter of national concern. So 36% that was from Western Uganda, 27% from Central Uganda, 27% from Northern Uganda, 11% from Eastern Uganda. So when you look at those who use petitions, a petition is a public complaint. Now only 12 petitions put on the table throughout the whole year. You mean citizens have nothing to complain about? Through their MP, Article 38 of the Constitution, Clause 1, citizens have a right to influence government decisions through their MPs, through their representatives, elected representatives. Article 2 says through their representatives or their civic associations. So when we go to check civic associations, CSOs, when they appear before committees of parliament, to see that the society gave, what is the uptake? What percentage of recommendations these people made have been taken into the parliamentary committees? So it's low. It has been increasing, but again, we're beginning to see it dropping. Okay, I think when
there, maybe possibly
I could pause there, but I wanted them to come with my own submissions to these other, because you told me to take stock. And I was going to take stock on appropriation, okay. So when you see let me leave that. 51% of the issues of national concern were responded to by ministers. Now, what happens the other 40% or so? There's no timeline, and once the year has passed, it has passed. They are never brought back. And these are issues. MPs are doing their job, but ministers again are letting them down. Okay? So when you come to appropriation, only 60% of the budgets they pass for local government, departments, agents of government met the threshold of the Finance Act, Finance and Management Act. For example, realigning those budgets to the national plan. For example, how many have realigned their strategic plans and their budget so that you know that we are going to achieve this National Development Plan 2, National Development Plan 3. Now, if 60% of the budget is the one which is aligned and the others are not, why do you even pass those budgets that are not aligned to? So these are things that we would like to see the next parliament address, even on the sustainable development goals and so forth. So the parliament should be able to ask the minister, you want this supplementary, which goal is it meeting? which objective of the national plan is it meeting? So we want to see a parliament that will raise these issues. So recommendations.
So let's get there. From there, let me get to this is the issue of the oversight role that is coming out. Is Parliament doing enough to get to the executive?
No, I think Honorable Pulkol's submission is evidence that Parliament has rendered itself, irrelevant in our governance. Let me take an example of when Parliament passed a decision to, about power, Umeme and closing, ending the contract of Umeme. Or does the executive implement the decisions of Parliament? And does Parliament do anything to enforce their own decisions? My answer is no. Parliament has the benefit of checking the executive. If I was a member of Parliament and I participate in a decision, for example, to end the contract of Umeme, which they did, I think, with about 80% of MPs, and the government ignores my decision, I think the next step Parliament should take is to suspend passing what the executive needs. The executive is always, I think every week or two, they are borrowing money. They either have a request to borrow money or a request for supplementary budget. Even in the first month of passing a new budget, this Parliament sits and debates.
Per population, per person, as we speak now, is 1.2 million shillings. Every Uganda is working with a debt of 1.2 million. Yes. Now, if you put the children only, it's even higher.
Yes. So,
the children are getting
this government, every 2 weeks, has a money request from executive. So, if Parliament was serious, they would say we passed the decision last week.
But
no, you will come in.
I'm asking you, you see certain things are very obvious. If you have a recurrent budget, I'm not even talking about development,
yes,
of 28 trillion.
Yes.
Your projected revenue
is 22
trillion.
Yes.
So from the word go, you are going to be looking for money every day.
Yes.
To just meet your recurrent budget.
Yes.
Because it's like you say.
Now, who's 12 citizens in that case?
So who is to blame? And why does Parliament? I know in my submissions, I mentioned that the caucus, the NRM caucus, has more power than the national parliament. But if this parliament was serving the interests of the people, they would check such practices.
But we know it is not, Sarah. So
yes, it is not.
What is the power of Parliament? And
no.
Say that the legislation is a waste of
if all of them are 10.
I don't know whether even, in my opening remarks I said it's a rubber stamp or something beyond. I think it is something beyond. With all due respect, we know there are most MPs who are working in the common interest of the people. And they've checked a few things. But the current context of our parliament today is under capture. It's also, we are under capture. All state institutions are under capture. Yes. Even one Honorable Abbas here, my good friend, knows very well that something is fundamentally wrong. He will go on the floor of Parliament and endorse it because of other reasons. But he knows in his heart of hearts that what he's doing is wrong and very terrible for this country. So this is the nature of Parliament that we have. It does not serve the people. It serves only one individual who has captured the country, and we have a permanent president.
Before you get to the president, just address these issues.
No, I know. I was saying.
Should even the speaker be valid for
No. Pulkol, I did say.
Why should
with this kind of
No. I asked you. Does it make sense to attend Parliament? Because I'm not sure whether I was an MP today, I would be attending every day. Because the frustrations, when you got Parliament, and I wish to thank Honorable Kivumbi and other few MPs that are really struggling against all odds to serve the interests of the ordinary Ugandans. It does not make sense in the current context to attend Parliament. Because Parliament is, after all, going to vote what the president wants. However much you debate, if you try to divert, then they will bring in the military.
If they come with and the
military beats you.
If they were to attend,
no.
Maybe they can change.
Honorable, wait. We know that
But
during...
when they don't
let me first submit. We know that I'm using age limit because there was a clear manifestation of an interest and a context and an attempt by a few MPs to serve what Ugandans wanted. So when executive sensed that their bill could be lost, we know what they did. And there was interest, people attending committees, people attending. That day the house was full. So when it was clear that there was a possibility for age limit to be defeated, we know what happened. We all witnessed bloodshed in that Parliament. We witnessed the rape of the people's house that we did not even witness during the Uganda-Obote crisis. So I think that explains how irrelevant this party is, the Parliament is, and why there is no interest and motivation in attending. Because there is no effect, there is no impact. But I want to thank those who are still struggling to serve Ugandans.
But Sarah, before you conclude on that point, you see, I give you an example of building. So after getting the architect, because, for example, when you go to a budget, who is the owner of the budget?
The people of Uganda.
No.
Sorry.
Is the Minister of Finance. Who is the Minister of Finance? Is the President. Now, which President gets selected? Because you must trust where the problem comes from. Which President gets selected? And he knows better than I do and Agaba that when it comes to some matters, even a single coin, Museveni will know who has taken it.
Yes.
Okay? Who prepares a budget that is brought to Parliament and is so ugly? You say you can say this other Mugole can work on...
No, parliamentarians have got their own budget office.
Yes, what I'm saying, you see, you know, even the constitution which you made, Parliament does not have powers to increase the budget other than 2 shillings.
Where is the law?
No, that's
where is the law?
No, that's the law.
What is
you cannot?
No, where is
the budget.
no?
You see,
Okay. Where is the law that says that you can't increase the budget?
No, it's there. You can't.
Where?
You can't increase the budget.
Where?
You can only increase the budget. Public Finance Management Act.
Yeah, but that's not the Constitution.
You see,
You are the one who made
you
the
see,
law.
what I can tell you is that there is a budget ceiling.
No.
It's not the law.
That's
It is a law. It is a law.
Any law or custom which contradicts the Constitution to the level that inconsistent.
No, there is no contradiction.
There's no contradiction with the Constitution.
Can you allow me to explain that point, please?
Sorry.
Okay.
On the budget, really, MK, you just consider that you MPs surrendered every power to do with the budget. You surrendered it because the Constitution clearly articulates that the appropriations function is a parliamentary function. The appropriations function means that you actually determine which money goes where. Every time this regime, the president and his people, the NRM caucus have said, you don't have... No, they have said, every time they come and say, you don't have power. That's what I have seen with this parliament.
And you think
when the president says you have no power, they say you don't have no power. The other guys say you have no power. All of you guys retreat. So every power to do with the budget, as far as I'm concerned, reading those provisions in the Constitution, everything to do with the budget is because you have conceded that power.
You see,
And there are now 3 parliaments.
Yeah.
One which sits in Entebbe,
short break.
another one which sits in Kampala,
We are going for a
chaired
short
by
break.
Kataga, another one which sits in Changwanzi. So which one did we
No,
send our
today-
MPs?
Today,
No.
even a Pulkol,
No, what I mean-
I know you are skipping it.
No.
Because the actual parliament today does not even sit in the caucus. I can surprise.
Where does
These
it
were
The
put
actual
taxes
does
on.
not even sit in caucus.
the deep state?
No, not even the deep state.
taxes
It's
on
the one that
the other one puts
Genocide sits with at
Exactly.
Serena.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Because
not-
the other day,
actual-
that's the actual organ now that makes the budget, and adjusts the budget.
Yeah.
And even he has powers to summon a secretary to Treasury,
Yeah,
the
man.
Bank of Uganda,
Yeah.
and
I
PS.
see Godber is very happy.
No, so
Of course it can't be true.
you know much as I know. Even the president considered. Even the president, Abbas, after that group, somehow I don't want to give myself undue credit. After that group, looking at my report, the one I made last year, that suggested cutting from extravagant expenditure. The group of Saleh stole the document, and I know who took away that group. It was Fred Mesigwa who took one. I said, this one I'm taking to Saleh. He took to Saleh, and the president came in the budget speech and said, I was advised by the group of wealth creation by General Saleh that there is excess 5 trillion. You see, so the actual people, even in the current budget framework paper, there is a line. People don't read. There is a line. When the budget was reviewed by the following organs, OW, we asked the minister, where does the power get OW to review a national budget prepared by Parliament? Where does an organ of
The minister answer.
He disappeared. So as we are speaking about state capture, my friend Sarah, what I want to allow you with these powers. Therefore, the people of Uganda, why they don't even petition Parliament? When you go to Saleh's office today, you'll find a long queue
The
of people.
petition, Saleh.
The petition is Saleh.
And the issues are addressed. Pulkol wants them to go to some place which has
The constitution will not elect Saleh.
Let's get into a short break. Let's get into a short break. Then get back. I think when we get back, we'll be discussing more on the legislative capacity. So let's have a short break on this discussion, and we get back. This is the Citizens Chat Show. This is how it gets interesting. The debate is heated, and I hope you're following this discussion on our social media pages. Our Twitter handle is the Citizens Chat Show Uganda. Kindly follow that discussion on the Facebook page live. We are on live there, and the YouTube page. My name is Masesa Demiano, the moderator of today, and let's go for this break and get back. The debate is still heated.
The Citizens Chatroom happens every Friday at 2 p.m. on Civic Space TV Online on Facebook and YouTube. We invite you to be part of this conversation. Civic Space TV, freedom always.
Welcome back to the Citizens Chat Show. This is one of the most exciting conversations we've had this period from when we started and premiered this conversation. So today, just from the break, we've been having an extensive, interesting conversation that we want to push on again to you, the viewers, to follow through. The conversation is on our Chat Show Uganda, on our Twitter hashtag page. We can also go to YouTube. We are live there already. The Facebook, live Facebook. That's where the conversation is happening. You could post your comments there. You could post your reactions there. We'll capture these views and also share with other many people who will be willing to follow through. So we're getting back now into the conversation, and possibly I need to just to provoke briefly Honorable David Pulkol from the scorecard. You think it is is it important, and do you think Parliament has delivered so far?
I think there are areas where
to the citizens'
yes, I
expectations?
think all is not gloom, and think we must balance these discussions. Otherwise, if you listen to this discussion, you think all is lost on Parliament, and that there is nothing that can be done to rectify this. But let's look at a few positives. One of them, whether it is the 26 laws that were passed in the 3rd year or those in the 4th year and so forth, when we subjected them to constitutional test and see whether there are any clauses there which sit badly with the national constitution, we find they passed the test. When we looked at those laws that this 10th Parliament has made in the 3rd year and the 4th, you find that they contribute to different aspects of the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And if you say 70% of our National Development Plan is Sustainable Development Goals, which Uganda committed, so I think you'd have to give the plus to this Parliament, because they are making a contribution to the fulfillment of those goals. As a legislature, what can they do? Apart from legislation, apart from moving motions, apart from passing budgets and to address those issues. If they are not addressed, it's a different matter, but that's where now they need to put more effort on oversight. When you look at there was a day when the parliament just decided to shut down and sent back all the policy statements ministers had brought. I think it was the chairmanship of Olanya. They just said, look, this is substandard. You ministers, you are taking this house for granted. Go back and revise the notes. And Moses Ali had to run with the things, and they had to revise and came back. That is a parliament. Okay, if you say he did not run, it was a wheelchair or what? But the point I'm saying, you see, I like to see.
She can't engage
listen. When Parliament, listen. I like when Parliament puts his foot down and say you are taking your job lightly, because these are policy statements that scrutinize the budget. And then there was another day again when some individuals had registered Uganda Airlines in their personal names. And now Parliament, imagine a minority committee taking the day. That is something commendable. And the airline was registered speedily the following day and putting things right. So there are cases like where a small group of Ugandan traders who had not been paid by government of South Sudan. And I think when Honorable Hook from Kitagwenda County moved a motion, and I like the way it was broadened, and they engaged government, and government now was given much bigger list. Whether it was comprehensive enough or not, but at least it was not a small favored few. Okay? Genuine. So we don't know, that's a different matter, but at least I saw, that's the day, listen, that's why I saw.
I'm giving information for her, that a committee headed by Honorable Anna Maria Nangabiro was formed to ascertain the genuine.
So later on, they brought back and said, now the matter has been taken, government of Uganda is taking it up with the government of South Sudan. Whatever has happened, but I like when MPs assert themselves and legislate on the basis of national interest. So if you look even to the 4th year, even to the 5th year, there must be triumphs of this Parliament. But there are also areas where they let citizens down. Okay? We have to balance. Look for something positive, Ojama.
Why?
You know, and it's a...
You said, Demian.
I could put more.
No, allow me come in there, because that's very provocative. That is very provocative, because you see, I think, for me, I believe that Africa is too patient with itself. We're just too patient. We are not impatient enough. And that's why we are being left behind all the time. So David has to struggle to look for positives. And then congratulate himself that at least I have found a positive. The assumption, No, you are congratulating yourself that you have found the positive. Because the assumption there is that...
look for positives, you can get positives.
The assumption there...
negative, you'll get negative.
Yes.
Depending on what you set yourself.
The assumption there... The assumption there is that actually we expect this thing to do badly. So we surprise ourselves that, hey, you mean you can find something that works? Because you see, we need to go back to the point that MK raised, which is the house. You have a house like this one, where in 2017, this same parliament voted to remove some of the pillars. And then there's a small group of MPs, like MK, maybe they have plastered the other section of the house. And then we say, I think that's progress. But actually the pillars are being blacked out. where the House is standing. I think that the debate, the conversation, I think why I liked MK's submission is that this Parliament, whether it is the 10th, whether it is the cunning one, the 11th, because they cannot be able to focus on the pillars of building our democracy, of building our economy, of building our social service infrastructure, that they are incapable of focusing on those pillars, you are likely to see them doing peripheral things and then say they have made progress, they are positives. I think that to the extent that they cannot deal with the pillars, this Parliament is going to continuously remain irrelevant. And unfortunately, I even don't see a situation, because look, if you look at David talked about the ongoing campaigns for Speaker of Parliament, and you see the obscenity of the game that is being played, that is going on, you realize that by the time these elections of Speaker are finished, that the 11th Parliament will be finished already. So you don't even have hope that it will have the legitimacy to be able to deal with the pillars around on which this country rests. This is a question of the architecture. It's not a question of aesthetics that we have seen. Oh, I even don't. Unfortunately, I don't even buy David's analysis of gender, how many women, how many men. So basically, we need to be able to deal with the architecture.
Because the glasses is putting on either convex or concave
So depending on what you see. But before you conclude, I don't know, but have you contested for an election? Have you contested for an election?
It doesn't matter.
No. It matters a lot.
Election.
No, it matters a lot.
It depends on which election.
You have.
No. I have run for different elections
Yes.
as a student, in different leadership positions.
You see,
I haven't done the ones that you do here, which I think I find problematic.
obscene.
The public auction.
You see, I don't want to believe in the utopia, in assumption. This can only work when this is there. The real world is different. That Parliament is mixed.
Are you
There are
saying that
people-
the real world is different from our constitution?
It's a mixture. They have the constitutional provisions, but they do not apply to the strictness you want them to apply. And that's how the world is. We have been talking about, he mentioned about acceptability of leaders. Trump has been a leader of America. Some sections of America had to accept him. It's not only Africa. Some sections had to accept him. Obama, he came in, was a good speaker, but there were elements in America that were still reserved about him. Until when they said, why, the man can be, and he came through. So, for me, my point of interest is, how do we work in the current setting to get out something good? That's why he's telling you, there's some positives, there are some negatives, and that's how life is. If you are waiting to have a Parliament, 100% positive, 100% good, everybody's articulate, everybody follows the Constitution, everybody does this then, so why do you go for election? Go and bring computers and put them in Parliament. No. But the fact that you have human beings,
negatives, why do we
the fact that you have human beings, I just gave you an example. There are people who come to Parliament and they really prioritize the work of Parliament. But the others who stand for a position of Parliament, but they'll never step there, and they always voted. There's a balance. So the person in Parliament is working so hard.
She's itching so much.
If the person in Parliament is working so hard to be re-elected, he may not follow so much the constitutional amendments, but maybe in his constituency in Kawempe, working to seeing how the trenches are covered, how the roads are done, because that gets him elected. Now the priorities differ. Godber's priority would be, the constitution must be protected. I agree with you. So the architecture of the house must be kept firm. Yes. Another has has replaced the pillar with something else.
Yes, what Honorable Agaba's submission confirms is that we have job seekers and not leaders in this country. But I want to re-emphasize one element, that the oversight function of Parliament is not a charitable function. It means that if a roaded fuso is on, a hill climbing, and it has lost brakes, what a citizen expects from MPs is that you will put a stopper on that roaded fuso and it is not going to fall to kill the people. But what we have now is a situation where the executive is already eroded fuso on a hill. It has lost its braking system, and you have no parliament or judiciary to put a stopper.
Actually, the MPs are jumping on the...
No, let me use
No, you had your time to submit.
but...
Can I be protected?
But
Yes.
stop good
Can I be protected?
She's protected, yes.
Yes, so our current governance context is that of a eroded fuso that has lost control on a hill, and there are no stoppers. Yet the doctrine of separation of powers is to provide for stoppers. That is the whole essence of checks and balances. Absolutely. So as you assess the functioning of parliament and relevance, Honorable Abbas, we are not going to preoccupy ourselves with people who are misplaced in parliament, whose preoccupation is to be re-elected. We are assessing leadership. We are assessing national priorities. We are assessing relevance of leadership to the people.
Thank you.
Honorable
Muwanga has been quiet for long, and
First of all,
you've listened so much.
There are two parameters here.
You should go and
One,
stand for election.
you go back to earlier philosophers. Earlier philosophers who talked about leadership.
Yes.
Actually, I will not. It says a Plato. Also, one of them said, leadership was a preserve of only philosopher king. They had rendered some of us who are still searching for earthly things to be leaders. If you are inspired by building a 4-story building along Kampala Road, better become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
If you want to have a lot of cut and say you have the largest number, better go and become a nomad or a rustler in Karamoja. And
a money rustler.
so if you want to look at your fat account and say, I'm a leader, but when I check my bank balance, it is this huge. You had been outruled to be a leader. Because leadership was about that philosopher king who has satisfied himself of the necessity of the time. And he convinced himself that there is a problem to address. Not one of, and history is not generous, Mr. Pulkol. History is a hard judge and judges on generalities. He says, did these people fail or succeeded? They will not be those things you see. They are meant to be.
No, they
history is that rush. When it quotes the entire generation.
Yes.
Even you and me and Godber who have history will judge us and say collectively condemn that generation, that irrespective of my struggles under the circumstances. It will, when we are judging the Pulkols, how they let Museveni get out of the back and become a monster we are now dealing with. Yes. You say, but what happened?
Get off the Fuso truck and become the driver
because we moved out.
Who let the dogs out? It was a song. Sometimes who let the dog out?
Because we moved out.
Yes. Now, how did we lose our way?
Yeah.
And how did we get to this point? That we now want to search and find the point here. In economics, they are called data bytes. You look for data bytes.
And then you congratulate yourself.
You congratulate yourself. Yeah. But comprehensively, you must answer the critical question of the time.
Yes.
If the time calls you, do you think the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were not agriculturists? They grew their food. But they engaged in the other criminal sin. Yes. And that's what we know them for. Yes. Did they starve?
No other story is told
no other story is told about them.
Yes.
So, Mr. Pulkol, let leaders know as you go to leadership that as I walk, as I said, people pass judgment as I march out of my car. Yes. And say, that man comes there, coming over there. Yeah. Is a real MP or not? Yeah. He has been on the side of our people or not? It's not that I've not been contributing. So me, I want to add to really to admit, Mr. Pulkol, that the whole question of the day is not answered in Uganda. That we are still at zero, at square zero, worry. And therefore, there is so much work to do. And for me, I get worried. I don't know whether you are reading the way I read the political situation. Is that
I get worried too.
should our situation, should we fail? What are the repercussions?
Fail in what?
No. We already failing.
Yeah, that's what
But
I was saying already.
should this thing
Degenerate.
What are the check? You see, where people have lost trust in the courts of law, they've lost trust in the policeman. They've lost trust in the church.
Yes.
And
They've lost trust. Everywhere you see people.
They have lost trust in the traditional
in
leaders.
the traditional leaders. they are now saying
They are on their own.
on their own. As the word
But
goes.
they've just elected people to parliament.
Yeah. No, they've just.
That's why it was a transaction.
That's why.
Yeah.
So for me, I believe it is a high time. First of all, fundamental questions must be addressed.
Like?
We are stuck with the person called Museveni.
Yes.
And we must start a difficult
There's over 500 of you. How can you
No,
fail
we are
500
saying
of you?
we are 500. How many of you did you fail? Why did you fail? We
One
are
person you
few.
always
Where are
fail
you
all the
few?
time.
So Mr. Pulkol, where are you few? The question is, you have a 70, going by normal calculation, something. What if what has happened to Tanzania has happened to Uganda? With the Saleh enjoying the summoning power, even of generals. Will the vice president, second, be in charge? Now, these are difficult questions, and you
second
sort of
vice
The
president.
deep state has already taken over.
No, we're asking fundamental question. You have an aging president, and you don't want to add. All what you have constructed is to idol worship an individual, not institutions. This man is not immortal. He's not going to be here forever. That's the question Ugandans must face squarely. In his works, he has undermined.
Before Ugandans can answer that
Yes.
squarely, parliamentarians who make him into a Republican monarch when he's not a monarch, you are the ones who give him all the envelopes that he carries around going like this. If you don't give him, where do you get? Even, for example, the powers to make a district, it doesn't belong to the president, the constitution. It just, local government sends an inquiry, does it qualify? Then write a cabinet paper to cabinet brings it to parliament, and parliament is the one which passes. But now again, even on making a district, you give the president who has no power anywhere, and then you want to blame the president.
I conclude.
You want to blame the president.
Yeah, but he's the president.
All the time you blame the president.
He is the president.
Even where you yourself.
No, David, he's the president.
Today,
There is a reason why he is.
these are fundamental questions. When a president of a democratic republic addresses the country and says, well, there were demonstrations. Some people were killed.
A few
people were
people
killed.
were killed.
Extrajudicial
Yeah.
killing. And the president is admitting.
Yes.
And it is normal. You are in a huge crisis. Because it's
Who has power to remove a president?
Because,
Parliament.
no, I'm asking.
You
For
can
me,
collect
there are
signatures.
small things
But
that speak
you are saying
volumes.
Parliament is doing some good things.
No, that's why I want them to do more.
Yes.
They may not be doing everything good,
see,
but they are doing some good.
You have to encourage them to do the
They are
good.
even
Can you allow
They already did that. I
You
know
see, I don't want MP to lament like any other
I'm
citizen.
not lamenting.
They are not just any ordinary citizen.
I'm giving him protection. I'm giving him
But you
protection.
protect.
I'm giving him
One-
protection.
Giving them power. These are not ordinary citizens.
That's what you should have reported in your research. The MPs are a mean.
That's the problem.
I told you. That's what they are. Yes, it's happening here now.
One day when
I don't have to report. It's happening here now.
report
It's happening
that
here.
I actually
They are
voted
lamenting.
on. I had a discussion with the whip, who is the Honorable Semuju, and he gave me a narrative that encouraged me. He said, sometimes your role, when you find a thief stealing bags of money, your role could be just to raise an alarm. You may not have the strength to go and
grab the guy.
grab him. But if your role is to raise an alarm, please do that. So sometimes our role for us,
to raise an alarm.
You are calling we are lamenting, is to raise an alarm that you see where you are headed, there are dangers.
Yeah.
I've done my duty. Now you who has extra strength and experience.
Nobody else has been given power to impeach a president except Parliament.
What God has done
Yes.
is to recognize that power. Honorable
Yes.
Muwanga Kivumbi, to say,
You
hey,
have that power.
Muwanga Kivumbi has made an alarm. At least as an MP, he
You're
has tried.
supposed to address it.
Then others may add on. He may not make the alarm, he may not arrest the individual, he may not do what.
So,
but
Parliament
because he
should
has
not
made
stop
the
us
alarm,
alarm
there is
only.
a tick.
on the question we were supposed to discuss today, what are the expectations of the new parliament? First,
Parliament
can this parliament engage and start a difficult conversation on one, on a transition? How do we transit? Not for me, theoretically, from Museveni. From Museveni and Musevenism. Because that's a disease. How do we transit from the NRA, UPDF, military occupation? Because by all intent and purposes, when I pass through the streets of Kampala today, if you are in a country where I win an election and all that I send on the streets are soldiers, then there's a problem. I've just won an election with 54%. No celebrations, but all I send are what? Soldiers with the sticks. That means you, the winner, you have a problem. So how do we now deal with the army? I'm so worried with the army that is now pervading all spheres of life. Are we really not going back to the days when the army actually took charge of this country?
That one I share that worry with you, because if you see the MPs of Parliament now from the army, only one survived out of 10. But if you see who is coming, the whole CDF to sit in Parliament, a whole command of land forces to sit in Parliament, a whole deputy CDF to sit in Parliament. When you see who will do the job, these are people who should be at the back, who should not be in front. So even me as a Director General for Intelligence, I do not have to be where the president is. Because should there be anything, it is us to undo it. But now if all the big top dogs of our military are in that house.
So,
Meaning the house is so important.
I hear you that.
And when will they do their work?
Where are they living?
When will they do their work?
Where are they living their job?
In conclusion,
What is in this house?
Just discuss.
When will they do their
Pulkol
work?
knows better and
Yes,
can
let's
articulate
conclude
this.
there.
You have a military, the way it is arranged, okay, that reserves, and we have questioned this. Today, when the CDF meets Saleh, who salutes the other? Both are serving army. The CDF of Uganda's army.
They're all generals.
No. It is the
Seniority.
CDF that salutes Saleh.
Saleh, yes.
Saleh is still a commander of a reserve force, by and large. So the moment you don't question these powers, you have a UPDF Act that still leaves Museveni as the chairman of the high command, even when I'm a
And who
president.
passed that law? Parliament.
No,
How did they push it there? Parliament. Not citizens.
and the
Who should
man-
take the responsibility? Parliament.
No, you have scored this parliament. Now,
Let's get to
when you have,
Abbas.
and
This is
I'm very
serious.
serious, when you have, let me go to the bread and butter issue. When you have a country well above the 50% threshold on debt, when you have a huge, so much money that you don't know how you will recover, when all normal ways of even running public offices have been abandoned and you are running by supplementary, because this is like a fire brigading.
Yeah.
Every time you see the house heads that run the house in the pocket. When the father is there, hey, we want bread, they come to you. We want nani, we come to you. That's not an orderly. The day when you are around, what happens? So we have all these catalogue of issues. And as Godber said, you have every election. For since we started voting, the results are always predictable. They will be disputed. Even if the winner will say, this is not the first time the president says he's cheated, by the way. He has consistently said people cheat him in election.
Why doesn't he take the case to court?
But
The winner.
Why we conclude? Honorable,
You
let me
have
get
also
back.
the dangers that for me are obvious. You have a young generation young and vibrant. And when I meet some of these people, I address rallies and I don't have any single OB or OG in a rally. All these fellows I address are alien to me and new. And you speak to them, they simply ask you a question. We know your words don't matter. Still give us a humor. That's what young people are saying. And this huge population has only been helped by us taking girls and boys to Middle East. With the COVID and other things that are coming in, because COVID is going to change the way houses are run. Because more technology is going to come into play, there will be need to know for those things. Going forward, things are going to change. These girls are going to be stuck here. With this huge population of 40 million unemployed, I'm telling you, an implosion is no longer a possibility. It's going to happen. And I don't see these answers.
What they will do,
so
they will climb Parliament
we are
and ban
getting
it.
to a conclusion. We are getting to a conclusion of today, and I want to bring it to.
I want to in Burkina Faso it happened.
Honorable Pulkol. I want to bring it to Honorable Agaba. We are getting into the 11th Parliament. Yeah, can we see what are these pro-citizen issues that the 11th Parliament should really address as we make our concluding remarks?
Well, it's not. It's just the members of Parliament going into in the 11th Parliament, being able to stand on their feet and speak for their people and speak for their country. I mentioned earlier that our interests differ a little, and they really do. As a member of Parliament, whether it's your job or not your job, I think what you call representation is to have issues affecting your people raised in Parliament. You don't bring questions to the Parliament and they are not answered, and then you are representing your people well. This is important. So the MPs have already been elected. It's not that we are going for an election process that we educate the masses on what type of people to bring. They have already been brought. So now that you have been brought, it is for you to fit into the caliber, into the decorum that is expected of you to represent your people well. You cannot have a national standard where we all fit, where all members of Parliament fit. That's why I disagree with Godber. And I really augment the report of Honorable Pulkol. You can only rate as is. You know, the Parliament performed, yes, but so-and-so spoke well, so-and-so attended well. There is something, yes, not all is well, but somewhere you are moving. You see, democracy is not science. When I used to teach chemistry, and I would be marking my students, there are specific words I'm looking for in the answer. And each word maybe earns half a mark. And at the end of the day, the student has 2 marks for one question. But in history, if you are a history teacher, you try to make sense of what the student has said, to make it correct. It's not clear-cut that this is correct, this is wrong. No. You have to try and read through what he's saying and try to make it correct. That's democracy. Honorable Muwanga has put it very clearly that the aristocrats, the philosophers, had written off some of us in society from leadership because you are not able. In Kampala here, you wouldn't be a road mayor or a mayor of the city if you are not a landlord or something like that. When we are consulting on the Local Government Act in Mukono, they said, we don't want an LC1 chairman who is not a landlord. You should put it in the law. Because tomorrow you disagree with the landlord and they chase you. So, the point we are making is, you can't have everything at once. No. Democracy is bringing everybody. Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi. The aristocrats are there. Those who are looking for money are there. This is a mixed bag of people you have in Parliament. But how do you try to sanitize this group to be useful to the country? You must accredit some who are doing well, so that they are role models for others. I've been in that Parliament. I'm in the Parliament. And every time you debate with them, I mean, I myself and Honorable Muwanga have been debating together for a long time. But there are people I met in Parliament that have not hadn't met before. And there are those I would see in Parliament before that I would wish to be like them. We need to create more of such. Because even the Quran has told me that there should come up a group among you that teaches others to do good. So we can't undermine the good or the teaching of this small group because it's that small group that will influence the others. So when Pulkol says, yes, here, this ones did this. It's a percentage of 30%, but at least, so it should give people confidence that, okay, if 70% or 60% are not doing what we expected, at least there's that 40. And you, the citizen, when you go to vote, you protect the 40 such that the team increases. The unfortunate paradox is that the 40 who are doing well, even when they go to the constituency, you might find the citizens also removing them. And the 60 are favored in a way. So if we are going to make our democracy better, want a stronger parliament, you must continue enabling these people to have backbones. Why do you get persuaded on small things? Leave alone the idea of the government bribing MPs or pushing their way. Committees, oversight committees of parliament, go and meet big people, big private companies. And you see, the time we were discussing the sugar bill, it was really, it was interesting to know. This one calls MPs this way, this one calls MPs the other side, this committee is called this side, this committee, the transport is theirs, sugar company, to accommodate so many MPs in a powerful hotel like those big hotels in Jinja, just to persuade them about your interest in the sugar bill. So we just need to continuously empower our leaders to have a backbone, to be able to backstop, to be able to defend our interests. And also, my sister Sarah and others, it is not only democracy and the democracy and constitutionalism that matter to the people. There's a person who is waiting to find what he's going to eat tomorrow. He doesn't care democracy, he doesn't care about the constitution, doesn't care about anything. If that person's need is answered, let's take interest and know, hey, what is his feeling now after that need has been answered? When Gaddafi came here in 2008, he said that most of the whites have come to Africa and they are imposing their own interests. They are colonizing people, imposing religions and others. But the African is saying, hold a minute, I am hungry, okay? Even when I have resources, I've not been able to utilize them to get sustainable provision. How do I deal with this? This is the technology they want. And I think it makes a point. Our interests in democracy, in parliament, are various. But wherever a little interest is met, we should accredit it and build on it. And more and more.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I need to get to Sarah. You are a key sector player, and of course you're most on the ground so much. And I would want to know what are the issues from the citizen side that you think the 11th Parliament should really address.
Maybe building on Honorable Abbas's submission. He did mention that, if I may try to demonstrate his point, he's saying that even if you have a DMC vehicle that is condemned on the road, try every day to wake up, tie it, fix it, spend a lot of money in the garage and see how to move. So I think that over time, citizens' expectations, wishes and aspirations have been lowered by a consistent bad leadership, to the extent that we admire a DMC vehicle on the road, yet maintaining a DMC vehicle takes a lot of money from you on a daily basis. So my first call goes to the people that we should not settle for this. We have no other country to call our own. We must always aspire to get to the best, and we are not going to celebrate small wins that are not fundamental, and then to make ourselves comfortable that we are making progress. So having said that,
small wins but not fundamental.
So having said that, what is the crisis of governance in this country? Of course, constitutional governance matters because it defines the relationship between a citizen and their country and what to expect from each other, rights and duties of a citizen, but it also defines the duties of a leader and the service they should offer. So it matters. It is the central purpose why you are an MP today. So we cannot say that we are not going to run on constitutionalism as if it is something theoretical and a myth. No, it is not. It is the central presence why we are seated here. During Idi Amin, I'm sure, when he abolished the constitution, such discussions would not happen. But that does not mean that then we celebrate that and then you ride on a nation for 50 years because you have established a constitution. So if you look at the functioning of the central government, I would use a recent example of the president's speech on kidnaps and disappearances, and want to use it to demonstrate the point we've been talking about, the brokenness and ineffectiveness of the legislature, to put stoppers on the excesses of this regime. We have several MPs, they have their constituents missing. A few of them have spoken on the House. There is a seeming commission of inquiry, but as people, we also know that the Parliament is a talking shop that cannot finally bite, that cannot even enforce the simple reprimands to end kidnaps, disappearances that are crimes against humanity. So you have a president who is a commander-in-chief saying, I know 51 people where they are held. And on immediate occasion, he says they are with SFC. And they have become friends, and they are trying to rehabilitate them. So he's justifying and giving evidence of extrajudicial killings, kidnaps and acts of his regime. And the next day you have the SFC saying, no, we do not have the people. So what does this mean? And these MPs wake up every day, go to Parliament, they don't know who is in charge of arresting Ugandans or kidnapping them. They allow numberless vehicles in the name of drones to move, kidnap people even in broad daylight. We know the arresting authority. We know the detail of Article 23. We know what should happen to any suspect in this country. We are not saying maybe people have not done something, but even on that, there is no push. Parliament, the president since November has been saying there is an emerging insurgency in this country. Parliament has not on any single occasion demanded that the executive explains the so-called insurgency. There is no statement on the so-called rhetoric of insurgency in this country. You have people dying, you have people disappearing, you have people being kidnapped, and then you call yourself a parliament. So to me that summarizes the irrelevance, ineffectiveness, and uselessness of this parliament.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Pulkol. Honorable Pulkol, you almost releasing the scorecard. Yeah. Can you release in the summary? Give us what issues the 11th Parliament?
Sarah needs to know that Honorable Semujungana has on some occasions talked about.
I know a few are trying. So are you comfortable with the stance? So you what have you done?
I am not, but some people have talked about it.
We are short of
So
time.
what are you waiting for?
We are short of time.
Because we are short of time.
Can we give it?
We are short of time, so we can't exhaust the recommendations citizens are
There are
making.
just a few of them.
But you can say that on attendance, I think is it possible to attach emoluments instead of consolidating their pay? Attach the number of sittings, the number of sittings you attend, so that at least there's an allowance for you. If you don't get. But this being of consolidating all your salaries, and it comes whether you attend Parliament or not, is I think wrong. There should be some way of enforcing attendance.
But let me ask you.
Now let me come back. I'm
question.
just making recommendations now.
I'm asking you. On that attendance. This very talk show is taking place in a parliamentary time. Now, if you want to cut I'm just giving a theoretical background. If you want an MP to say, I will not be on this show here, and you want to score negative there, but I'm here being productive.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're not doing parliamentary work.
Yeah, I'm saying,
but this is
you see,
No.
parliamentary work.
Yes.
Parliamentary work goes
What
beyond
we do.
presence in Parliament.
What you need to do is to get
Constitutional
permission. Listen,
governance, which
you
is
get
part of
excuse
the
absence.
Yeah,
There's a leadership of Parliament. You say that I have this invitation.
The secondary school.
I am going. No. By the way, excuse absence is allowed in Parliament. For those who go to African Parliament, they go to IPU. You can even absent yourself. You go to the constituency or something like that. It is orderliness. It is discipline to seek of the leadership of their house. I mean, leave of absence. That's what should be. even in your own decorum. That's what you're called vulnerable. You don't just disappear like that, like any other. No, there must be some order. So when there's excused absence, you are recorded like you're present because you're doing parliamentary work, you're doing representative work. It's recognized. And so you're not marked. When we go to the Speaker's office, in the glass cupboard, all the letters MPs write and replies are given to allow them to be absent in the House. So this is one way to enforce actual authority and orderliness in the House. So the other matter is should MPs really be appointed ministers? Or once you appointed a minister, or shouldn't we, is it about time, even a speaker or deputy speaker, if you're elected a speaker or deputy speaker, must you still be holding a constituency? Shouldn't you allow those people to come and have somebody who can speak for them? Because you can't speak for them in the House. You are there regulating and moderating the House. So who speaks for those people? So there are certain issues that needs to be fixed. Like, for example, the order paper. When it comes the same few hours to you to sit, when do you do even research? When do you do even ministers? It must be predictable. You have a business committee of the House. For example, another thing about when you've given a minister and taken a decision of Parliament, in the rules of procedure of Parliament, there's no requirement for a minister to report back to the House. When you go to Zambian Parliament, they are given 60 days within which to report back on this matter. So it is mandatory. But when you look at ours, nothing. So when you go to, will increase in attendance of parliamentary business, generate information in terms of feedback. Now, there's no constructive feedback of the MPs to their constituents. It's either through funerals, through fundraising drives, so shouldn't mileage to the constituency, if you are given 2 round trips in a month to be in your constituency, shouldn't mileage be, shouldn't there be a structured way that you went to consult your people, to brief them on what transpired the last 3 months, and also get their views, okay? And you come with a report or an attendance or something like that, for which it was structured. It was played on radio. It was done. So you know that MPs have come and they are paid accordingly. There should be a better way to give a structured feedback to your citizens. Now, shouldn't the MP also be involved in oversight, in inspecting projects of government in your constituency? All you see is that the MP has come, is only inspecting his project, his building there, his school is building there. When does he go to, and you see him inspecting projects either funded by local government or by central government or something like that in the constituency? There should be a way in which that these people work for us. And also, when they, should MPs be involved in buying ambulances and all these scholarships and paying bills and so forth? Or because there's a gap in service delivery, and the MPs are among those who donate, who are filling a gap. It is true the MP's ambulance is taking citizens, they are reaching the hospital and bringing the dead body back. They are doing a service to the constituency, and this should be recognized too. But is it their role? Shouldn't they be voting enough money for the ambulance Minister of Health, and then putting pressure on Minister of Health and say, we gave you for this number of ambulance, how have you distributed? Next time, instead of them, because now when they are elected, when they are not elected, they come and take away the ambulance. Yes. Was it a donation or was it just a bribery? What was this thing? Was it just? Breach of contract. So time has come to ask these legitimate questions, okay? And it is true they are doing a commendable job down there, but I think it is time to formalize these things. And also, isn't it about time for MPs to get constituency development fund, a meaningful constituency development fund, where the MP is given a percentage of the GDP among themselves, because there's a gap. The only person the citizens see is the MP. Maybe they have no way of reaching the minister.
If I may ask on that point,
now, so that you have MP chairing.
Okay. Just on that very point briefly. So should the role of an MP then change to be involved in service delivery?
Because you see, being a representative of
that's what
listen,
the vote.
That's how they vote. Now, listen,
So we are working to maintain MPs.
they are representatives.
No.
Listen, there's nothing in the
So
constitution.
should we amend the constitution?
There is nothing in the constitution to say they have no constituency roles. They have no role in the development of the constituency. There is nothing, not even the Uganda law.
But
there is nothing to stop that they cannot donate, even contribute, and be involved in community projects. They are not outlawed.
I
there
know,
is nothing.
but it's a fusion.
Listen.
It's a fusion of services.
Listen, there is nothing in the Uganda law, being a people's representative. They have, by the way, you are limiting them only to 3 roles. They have constituency role. They have even international role, representing Uganda in Commonwealth Parliament, in Interparliamentary Union, in Africa Parliament. These are roles they play.
Yeah.
And they also have roles for the party. They represent their parties also in Parliament.
Yes, but we shouldn't push them to making roads and fixing bridges.
MPs have more roles than you see here. And they must be recognized. How they balance...
Then what would
how they balance their roles?
The role of local government.
For example, now, because of the gaps that exist.
No, are we trying to fix the threat for abnormalities?
In the past, for example, the MP did not have to do this. They had to vote money, not for state house scholarships, but those scholarships to be in the district. I, David Pulkol, benefited from Karamoja Education Committee. I have bursary for my O-level. Not even Idi Amin removed it since Obote 1. I benefited from a full bursary when I was in A-level Makere College school year, 79 to 81. I benefited from a scholarship. I did not need to know anybody in State House. You just apply to your district education committee. Then by December, chiefs are come and they inspect. They look at the granaries, they'll count the cows and see whether your parents... Okay, so I'm saying, shouldn't our MPs be doing that?
No,
instead of now, themselves paying. There are 2 ways of doing it.
We are fusing the roles of executive and legislature.
Either you strengthen the state, either you strengthen the state institutions to deliver in those gaps as an MP, because you are the only ones who have power of the pass, of the budget. Okay? So when you fail to do your appropriation role, then the burden falls on you. And for you now to pull from your pockets to be able to educate children, to pay health fees and so forth.
Okay, our time is running.
I'm sorry, maybe I should stop here.
Yes, we are.
Otherwise, you have all the 17 recommendations.
Yes, we need to. But just as we conclude our engagement today, it's just for clarity. Honorable Muwanga Kivumbi, just in 1 minute, why can't? Have you ever do you envisage a situation where parliamentarians would say, okay, we are doing away with our allowances and for this time, and we just give it to a cause that benefits the citizens and really looking for the constituency fund?
Honorable Pulkol should have assisted the country on the question of allowances.
This one I want you to get to
because I think it's one of the misconstrued allowances. MPs are given a salary, and I'll be honest, it's 11 million. When you remove the tax, yes. When you remove the tax, it's come to 6.12 something. That is the salary. You are given what they call downtown running. Downtown running is that if I'm here for a conversation at the level of an MP to get information, I should afford a soda at my own expense. You should not be a burden of the host. Because then MPs will be seen, I don't get that money here, he will demand money. You are given a housing allowance because you were a guest or state fairway rate. They go for what fairway room costs, they compute it. Fairway hotel.
Then we should bring you for 3 months. You go live for 3 months.
That's what I'm saying.
3 months instead
then
of
they are given
5 days.
mileage. 2 round trips. Are there 2 round trips around the constituency?
A month.
A month. That's all. Now, when you compute that, you see the problem is that you are given this money on your pay slip.
How much is it average?
Average is 30 million. Thereabout. So, but on it, you have to run a vehicle, you have to pay driver, you have to pay personal assistant, you have to rent a constituency office, you have to do everything and take care of yourself.
And be in the constituency.
And be in the constituency, and also be a guest. For example, they were given some constituency fund.
Yeah.
For that if I'm invited to be a guest of honor on a school open day, I should be able to offer the best student some gift as an MP, not just to encourage others to think. Now, the question of the payment of MPs is misconstrued by the general public, and there is a wrong debate and a wrong narrative. Now, I would hesitate to expand the role of an MP from what traditionally it is to what to go into service delivery. Because one other, my cardinal role is oversight.
Yes.
Now, if I've done my role, I can tell Pulkol, take you to Gombe Hospital. He knows it very well. When I was in Parliament, it's the hospital built by Idi Amin, Obote, among the 22. It was rotting away. It first got 2 billion on that called, just to keep the infrastructure running, which was stolen. Because I'm a member of a budget committee, I spoke to the minister, say my hospital is rotting. Said, okay. But I had a local challenge because the local government had swindled the money taken there. I said, if you give the hospital money, this time don't use the ministry, don't use the local government. It's a district-run hospital. Yeah. Use the ministry, and they gave it 3 billion. 6, 3, and 3 are coming. By courtesy of the PS, I spoke to the PS. I had a challenge, the ministry, money was stolen. 1 week ago, I toured the hospital. And for the work done, and I was proud. For the work that has been done.
And that's lobbying, that's what the member of Parliament
Yes,
but now you are telling me I should be given money to go and build the clinic.
No, not you. What I mean is that if you see in Kenya,
So who would be in charge of it?
if you see in Kenya, this is how it works. In Kenya, this is how it works.
Kenya is doing very
They
well.
have a structure of, they have a percentage of the GDP. The money, the MP is the chairperson of the development committee in the constituency. Projects are generated, and therefore the money comes to the local government, like now in our case, the district. Then the district technical staff come and appraise these projects for their technical.
Mr. Pulkol,
no, listen. Then the money, the choice of the projects, the MP chairs, and they select, okay, and then it is funded through that arrangement of the district, and then the accounting officer accounts for it. But the MP, it doesn't come to the MP's personal account like they tried last time. It doesn't come to his pocket. But so that when the MP hands over the constituency, you have handed over a file, okay, of development projects, which will be continued. Because now there are gaps in local government delivery, there are gaps in central government delivery. The citizens think the MP is the only one we can touch, we can reach anytime, any day. And is the one representing those ones you cannot see, or those ones who may not have feelings for this community. What do? Do we allow MPs to use their own money the way they are doing now? They are using their own money to buy ambulances. They are using their own money to pay for women who are delivering in health centers. They are using their own money to sponsor kids in school. They are using their own money. Where do they get this money? Where do they get this money? The burden lobby. The burden is heavy on the MP. The burden is heavy on the MP. Let's save the MPs.
Mr. Pulkol,
Let's save
this
the
is the
MPs.
way
Our time is up.
the structure of government is organized. The roads in Uganda are of 3 categories. They are the national roads under UNRA. Okay? There are roads for districts, there are roads for sub-county, and there are roads for community, which you call Bulungi Wansi. There is no road for an MP.
Yes.
Hospitals or medical health centers, there are those for national, there are those for the district, there are those run by the sub-county. Even when you go to every other sector, maybe money for development, what the struggle is in Uganda is that you have a 45 trillion budget. You have created all these local governments. A sub-county budget of one sub-county in my constituency, its annual budget is 32 million.
So what can they do?
What can you do? And that is the where the council will see.
happening when you
are
where we
advocate
can
that the
there are-
local government is
the gap that is there. The gap that is
the
there,
failure of the
Mr.
same
Pulkol.
MPs.
No,
Who
the
has
failure
created
that
this?
is there.
Who has created this
Mr.
number of
Pulkol,
districts?
Mr. Pulkol,
let me-
the
We
failure.
shall have this discussion next
yes,
time.
The failure,
need to
the
invite
failure,
you
Mr.
again to-
Pulkol,
Who
for
approved
the
this
MP, for the MP's role should be, how do you struggle to increase the budget of this sub-county
sub-county.
to be commensurate
Yes.
with the
With the
responsibility?
needs.
Why do we leave
Why are you
heaps
not
of money?
doing this?
So, not that now the
No, we
MP
should
should
have
know.
let's
saying-
no matters.
No, I'm
That's
saying
why.
there are two ways to
This
go
is
about
why.
it.
So I think
And you win an election
let's
by doing
end
the
it at
things I
this.
do.
Yes.
There are two ways
Yes.
of
Let's
going
different.
about it.
Yeah,
I agree with
let's have this
Honorable
discussion
Muwanga.
out of maybe we can continue after we are done. Our time is up,
Really?
and we need to conclude.
But we shall repeat this.
Yes, we need to have this conversation, and we need to be invited again. Hopefully, we'll have time for us
Thank you for
again.
inviting me.
Yes, all of us. We need to ensure that we are. Thank you very much. We are ending this discussion from here. It is heated up, but because of time, we cannot take it on from here. We cannot exhaust it. These are topics that you, the citizens out there, are much more interested in and would want to be part of. So we encourage that from here we can have the discussion going on our social media pages. This is the Citizens Chat Show. It happens every Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. And please tune on. You get onto your YouTube channel. You get onto our Facebook. You get onto Twitter or the hashtag the Chat Show Uganda. Chat Show Uganda. I've been your host today, Demian Masesa, and I hope we can continue with this conversation again. I look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Thank you very much. For God and my country.